What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Destination the Show. This is episode 120. My name is Jamie Cameron, joined as always by Jeremy Nygaard. I'm going to get kicked off my own show after an intro like that. Theo did a much better job. How are you, sir?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say you take 1 week off and forget how to start. Like that's ridiculous. No, but I'm good. Everything's good. Aside from my camera, which is laggy and not great. Um, no, everything's good. How are you doing?
Doing well. We are about 7 weeks out from the draft. Um, NCAA regionals start on Friday. It's warming up outside. The Twins apparently are almost a 500 team.
Yeah, what happened there, huh?
I don't know. Kalen Culpepper just hit his 11th home run of the season, so I feel like we might see him soon. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Yeah. Okay, let's jump in some housekeeping here, and then we'll get into our kind of two topics for the day, ways that you can support the show. Feel free to like and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. You can find all of our stuff. If you want to see laggy, blurry Jeremy, you can do so on YouTube. The handle there is at Destination the Show. If you want to send us questions, which people sent great questions today, you can do so on Twitter. The handle there is at DTS_pod1. On Blue Sky, it's at Destination the Show, or send us an email, destinationtheshow@gmail.com. Jeremy, I have forced your hand because I feel like you always say it's not time to start talking about the draft until after the NBA season is over. Well, the NBA season is still going on, but it's time to talk about the draft because we're gonna dig into some mocks. What is your excitement level from like jaded to like actually excited about trying this out?
Um, I'm,
He's
ex-
like,
I'm
nah,
ex-
nah,
like this is a fun tool, so that's
it
going to
is.
make this more fun. We've also never done this before,
No.
uh, which makes it a little more like, is this going to be fun or is this going to be ridiculous?
Yep.
Um, so 4.5.
4.5. Okay, cool. What we are going to attempt to do here is we are going to show the mock draft simulator from Overslot Baseball, courtesy of Joe Doyle and friends. If you guys don't know Joe Doyle, we have had him on the show before. One of the main folks in the industry at this point for draft rankings, draft analysis, and he migrated a lot of his work to a new site called Overslot, which is really great. And I would encourage folks to subscribe if you get value from draft content. Part of that is there's a free mock draft simulator, and we're going to use it to have some discussions around some possible paths for the Twins. So this is kind of an experiment. If you guys think this is cool, let us know, and we can certainly do it more in the build up to the draft. If not, we'll never do it again, and we never have to discuss it again. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to simulate through around 80 picks, and the computer is going to simulate most of it, except when we get to the portion where the Twins are picking, Jeremy and I are going to pause. I'm going to have some discussion about what some of the options are for the Twins, how to build kind of a balanced, interesting selection of players, probably through the first 4 picks. So we'll give this a shot once or twice today, and then we'll kind of transition into a really great Twins farm system mailbag with people sending a ton of great questions. So let's dig in, dude. Let's see if we can figure out some screen sharing situation here. All right, here we go. So what we'll do is we'll try and kind of narrate through this too for people who are not watching along. A little bit of what happens ahead of where the Twins are picking. Now, Jeremy, you can. I think we've both given this a whirl quite a few times since this has come out. What do you like about this mock draft simulator from Overslot? And I mean, it's kind of a one of a kind in the draft space. But what do you like about it in particular?
Yeah, I think the thing that we have always talked about is, it's all kind of, we don't know price tags, right? And it's like going shopping and not knowing what things cost and then trying to figure out what you're going to buy. It's almost impossible. What this does is it puts a price tag on players. Is it accurate? We don't know, but it's certainly more accurate than just doing this without a price tag, right?
Yep.
And so it forces you to make some choices. I shouldn't use that word. Forces you to make some decisions that you wouldn't necessarily have to make if you were just doing any other mock draft. So that makes it far more realistic than anything we've really ever done before. And I think that's what makes this such a fun tool, is that it's realistic, right? It's real life choices that a team will have to make on the clock. Teams probably have something relatively similar to this, right? Where they have a price tag, a sticker on guys, assuming that their area scouts and cross checkers do a good job getting that price narrowed down to something pretty accurate. That's how they build it, and they're continually building that board while the draft is happening, right? Making calls saying, do you take this? If the answer is no, we take them off the board. Or drop them down the board where you might try to save money and get them later, but at least you have an idea. So this is the where it's not completely realistic, is it's not changing, right? There's not negotiating, there's not talking and that sort of thing happening here. But as far as simulators go, this is really kind of perfect.
Yep. 100% agreed. And of course, as you mentioned, we're not going to know the exact bonus demands or slots, but it does force you to think about that as a factor, which is really, really important. I would add that this is 100% an exercise that draft teams go through the week before the draft several times. You want to go through and understand every possible permutation that you're getting yourself in for. I would say, despite my love of this tool, my one very small criticism that I'll level at it before we jump in is I think after about 45 picks, I think there's an argument that the AI needs to make a little bit more chaos of the board. I think what we're going to see is probably a pretty chalky top 80, which is fine for the purpose of this thought exercise. But I think we all know that as soon as 40, 50 picks go, things start getting weird. And I think that could maybe be built into the logic a little bit more, but that's a conversation for another day. Let's go ahead and get started. So we've set this to kind of 1 second between picks. So you guys will see this unfold if you're watching this back. If not, we'll kind of talk through what happened before the Twins pick, and then kind of get the lay of the land a little bit before making a choice for the Twins in each of their spots. So let's get going. Okay, so already we have interesting surprises. And this is why I like doing this, right? Because we've seen mock drafts coming out from the industry already at this point. I've never seen this before, and I've done this many, many times already. So we have Rock Chalowski going number 1 overall to the White Sox, and then Jackson Flora, right-hander out of UC Santa Barbara, going to the Rays at 2, which puts us on the board, Jeremy. And I'm going to filter this by ranking, so it's a little more accurate. We've got a number of interesting choices ahead of us. Grady Emerson, who everyone assumes is going number 2 overall, with a $10 million signing bonus, or Von Lackey, Georgia Tech catcher, who's just had an unbelievable end to the season, who's asking for 9.7, the number 2 and 3 ranked players on the board. The slot the Twins have for the number 3 overall pick is $9.7 million. Talk a little bit about how you're thinking about this choice. I'm really curious because I'm pretty torn.
Yeah, this was not at all how I thought that was.
No, same.
I thought that the most likely scenario is that Chalowski goes first. I don't remember what the record's at, but he doesn't get the full slot, but he gets the record, right? That's the most likely scenario at number 1. Number 2, the Rays take, in my opinion, Emerson.
Yep.
And that leaves Lackey. Or if they take Lackey, that leaves Emerson. Flora kind of jumps out as a surprise pick for a number of reasons. I think for the exercise, when the Twins draft somebody here, they're probably getting about $9.5 million.
Yep.
Right? Whether it's Emerson or whether it's Lackey.
Yep.
I would think if it was just based on what we know about the Minnesota Twins and their draft tendencies, I would guess they would prefer Emerson to Lackey. Um, in this particular instance, I would be really, really fine either way.
Yep.
Um,
So I have a suggestion here, because having cheated and done this too many times, you don't get Grady Emerson available at 3 an awful lot. And so I think it might be a more interesting thought exercise for us to build out the rest of the class if we jump on this opportunity to take Grady Emerson, even though we acknowledge that we're probably not giving him a $10 million bonus at 3. And I think for our purposes, we're only going to make, 4 picks anyway. So if we take Emerson at 3 here, I think the next time we do this, it's highly likely that Lackey will be available at 3 and or Flora will be available at 3. And I think, the most fun way to consume this probably is going to be to sift through all of the various candidates under consideration between kind of now and draft day. So if you're good with it, I'm going Grady Emerson at number 3 overall.
Yep, perfectly good with that.
Okay, let's do it. We're locking that in. Now we have a little bit of waiting time, Jeremy. So let me ask you this while the computer is kind of sifting through picks. We're picking next at 43, which is the Twins' second round selection. If we're going by slot, we're down to $2 million because we spent 0.3 over. Does picking a prep player with the number 3 overall pick influence at all how you're thinking about the number 43 pick? Are you thinking more about college, or is it just who cares, best player on the board?
Yeah, I would guess it's going to be a college player. There has been more college bats taken, like the Twins have gone that route more often. I would guess college bat. Like if I was just guessing, I would say college bat at 43, prep arm at 74.
Yep.
And so I would be curious to see what types of names are available here of the college world.
Yep.
Because I see a lot of high school.
Yeah. So let's sift through here. And this is something I think, to our question, our statement earlier about it being a little bit chalky. It's also something we notice, I think, when I've kind of gone through this process. By the time you get to 43, a lot of the good college arms are gone and a lot of the depth of the college bats is gone. So we're going to have to sift a little bit because I've organized these players by ranking. So our first kind of college bat available is Chris Rembert, who's kind of one like a more of a skill bias profile, like good all-around tools, nothing standout from Auburn. He's had a pretty ordinary season. Second baseman, outfielder. I think he'll stick on the dirt. He would have been in line to go quite a bit higher. He was a top 30 kind of consensus preseason pick. Tyler Head is really interesting if you want to take a stab at a more tools-driven college player. He plays center field for North Carolina State. He can absolutely fly. It's like plus to double plus speed, plus center field defense, and he's just started to get into some power. And then another couple of options, and we'll kind of cut it off. If you want a college arm, Gabe Gackel is an undersized guy out of Arkansas who I'm personally not particularly fond of. I think the people's choice here, and you can weigh in, Jeremy, with who you're feeling out of these names that we've talked through, would be Daniel Jackson. He is a college catcher out of Georgia who is going to be, I think, the number 3 overall seed in postseason play. He's just gone for a 25 home run, 25 stolen base season for Georgia behind the plate. Really big dude, like 6'3", incredible athlete, incredible power, a little bit of swing and miss stuff. But if you're not taking Von Lackey at number 3 and you want a long-term successor to Ryan Jeffers, this is potentially an interesting swing to take in a balance to Grady Emerson as your number 3 overall pick. So out of those guys, Rembert, Ty Head, Gackel if you want to arm, and then Daniel Jackson, any of those in particular stand out to you for our second pick here?
The profile that I was going to give you is there like a breakout power guy, right? And if Jackson's a 25 home run guy and plays the position behind the plate that we see, a little bit of power.
Yep.
That makes sense. But I think like um, some of the things that we've seen here recently with like Billy Amick with the power profile, DeBarge, who hit a bunch of home runs right in his last college season.
Yep.
The Luke Keeschel type profiles where it's like, are we on to something? Those types of swings. I don't necessarily know that you've given me anybody in this particular range that fits that, but I do think that the Twins would be more likely to go with a backstop that can hit 25 home runs than a double plus speed outfielder who doesn't necessarily offer that. So if that would be what you think, I mean, if there's other guys coming up,
Yeah, I mean, even if we scoot down, if you want a well-rounded profile, Zion Rose, I know he was a guy. I think you were fond of him when he was a prep guy, Jeremy.
Yeah, he caught, right?
Yeah, he used to catch. Now he's a kind of converted outfielder. He's turned into a little bit of a contact and power threat, but he's only this far down the board because he missed a bunch of times with injuries this year. I think he would be potentially gone. I think he's actually a solid candidate that the Twins might like. So I would offer Daniel Jackson is really the premier breakout player in college baseball this year. You look at his numbers; they're absolutely astounding.
Okay. Let's go with him.
Okay, let's go Daniel Jackson. So we've got Grady Emerson, who we're putting in the same kind of rarefied era as Max Clark, Walker Jenkins caliber prospect at 3. We're paying a little overslot for him. We're taking Daniel Jackson at 53, college catcher from Georgia. Now we got to wait, but we have saved money with Jackson, so we can potentially afford to go a little bit overslot when we get down into the 70s for a prep pitcher that you like.
While we wait, do you think that the Twins will go to Wes Johnson's Georgia Bulldogs? And
how is that
relationship?
I don't know. I really don't know. And Georgia has a ton of interesting draft eligible talent this year. I think they took a guy from Georgia last year, though, did they not? Colton Smith, I want to say. Okay. Maybe Theo can check for us. I think Colton Smith, who they took in like the middle rounds, was out of the University of Georgia. He's actually one of their better arms from, I want to say 2024. I could be wrong. Okay. But TBD. That's an interesting one. Okay, now this is interesting, right? Because if you look at, and this I think is a useful thought exercise too. We have guys that are ranked all the way up into the 30s, but their bonus demands are pretty hefty, right?
Even more, right? Is Lombard still available and just unsignable?
So Lombard and Trevor Condon and Tyler Spangler, all who have bonus demands north of $4 million and 8.3 in Lombard's case, are all unsignable. You cannot take them, which is another interesting thought exercise.
Yeah, Jeremy. Jamie was right on this one. It's Colton Smith from the 14th round last year. Actually, no, 12th round. Okay. So they have gone to that well. Will they go again? Who knows? We'll see this upcoming year.
There we go. Thanks, Theo. Okay, so Jeremy, you said to me you're interested in a prep pitcher in the 70s.
Yep.
If we want to go over a slot here because we have saved a little money / I feel like this is the place you go over slot. We have 2 different picks in the 1.1s. What is kind of the level you feel comfortable going to? Are you comfortable going up to $2 million, in which case you're working to save some money on later picks? Is there kind of a ceiling for you as you're thinking through this pick?
Yeah. So I think, I do think that they'll go prep pitcher, and I do think that they will save money. Now, with their picks being as close as they are, the benefit is to take the lesser signable of the 2 at 79, right? So the guy that you like most, you're going to take him over slot. You're going to pay him well over 1.1, but you're not going to take him at 74 because if you don't sign him, it takes less money from your pool, right? Not a significant amount, but yep. An amount. So what I would say is let's locate the guy that we want, take him at 79, but we're gonna skim on 74, take a college pitcher probably. And here's what I'm thinking, right? I'll tell you my archetype, and you find the guy.
Okay.
I want a college pitcher from
Okay.
from quality league who has dealt with injuries, and probably someone in this area, 700,000 area.
Okay. How about a guy who's just super raw?
Sure, someone that has like we're taking a swing on someone with probably a decent ceiling
Okay.
and a pretty low floor, but a college guy.
Okay.
And whoever you like, I'm all for.
Okay. I have a guy with a pretty good ceiling for college and also a low floor. And that is, let's see, we're down at a 111 per overslots board. And that's right-handed pitcher Carson Jasa out of Nebraska. I believe he is 6'9", Jeremy. Relatively low mileage on the arm, fastball up to 98, and some absurd spin traits. But there's definitely some control and command stuff to work through and more of an arsenal to develop if he's going to be a viable long-term starter. If that doesn't work out, you have an eighth inning guy who's going to be touching triple digits at some point down the line, but he has shown significant improvement this year over last year at Nebraska. And there's just this kind of track record of like he's headed in the right direction. And I think you give maybe a little bit more grace to guys with long octopus arms who are trying to figure out how to get a hold of all of their body parts while they're throwing a baseball in the upper 90s. So that's potentially my guy. I think there are some safer bets in this range in terms of college arms, but I would also add that certainly some of the next tier of college arms that I might lean into is gone even here, which is Ethan Kleinschmidt's kind of interesting out of Oregon State, but I'm not doing cartwheels for really any of these guys. Whereas if we are looking at the prep pitching, and you made a great point about saving that person for 79, we have all kinds of interesting choices that we can make because that demographic is just much deeper. So Carson Jasa, I think, is a guy who's interesting. The Twins have drafted out of Nebraska before. I think Cade Povich was out of Nebraska back in the day, who's with the Orioles and was part of the Jorge Lopez trade that turned out horribly for the Twins. But what do you think about Carson Jasa as an option?
Yep. The Twins have done that with Big Ten guys, and you're playing in Nebraska, not so much, but it's colder climate stuff.
Yep.
Especially in the spring. Nebraska won the Big Ten, right? Like they're a host.
They are hosting. I think they were the third or fourth best team in the Big Ten behind UCLA, who are number 1 overall, and then you've got Southern Cal and Oregon.
I don't call those as Big Ten teams. The Big Ten Midwest, right?
Big Ten Midwest, yeah, that's fair.
And so I do think, but the archetype that you've given is one that we've seen with Jason Reitz, right? He's a Big Ten guy, has a lot of questions, but let's do that. Let's save some money there.
Okay.
And
all right, now we're coming immediately back up. So we saved about $500,000 under slot. We are about $500,000 under with the Daniel Jackson pick, and then we're about 0.3 over. So we have about 1.8. I'm going to say 1.8 to 2 million to spend on a prep pitcher. Is that a range that you're good with here at 79 also?
Yeah. And I think we can even, I mean, if we've saved, I think we can get something done here. Big arms, right? This is what the Twins do with the prep guys. So
I got a guy for you. I got a couple guys for you.
Is he a Northeast guy?
He's not a Northeast guy. I was looking for Caden McCarthy. There's so many good choices here, dude. Caden McCarthy might have already gone. But there's so many good choices here. You could literally like throw at a dartboard, and there's 5 or 6 guys that I'm really interested in. I want to walk you through a guy who I actually wrote up today for the consensus board and see if I can sell you on him. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Cooper Sides, California Prepster.
Okay.
Also 6'6", 220. So he's absolutely got the projectable thing going on. In the last 12 months, his fastball ticked up from like 92, 93 to 95, 96. Throws a ton of strikes. Has a really good sweeper, and then has a changeup and curveball that are kind of lagging behind the rest. So he has definitely an above average fastball, above average to plus, slider, sweeper, and then 2 other pitches that are kind of in the emerging category, but throws a ton of strikes. So he's halfway towards a really good 4-pitch arsenal. He's 20 pounds away from being filled out, and he's already got the strike throwing component. I think there's a lot of folks who would tell you he's the best prep arm in California, which, as we've talked about quite a bit, is a region that the Twins like to frequent. How do you feel about
committed to where?
Committed to LSU.
Okay, so he's going to take all of $2 million.
100%. He's going to be expensive.
How about let's just look through these other pitchers. So where's Greenwich County Day School?
I want to say it's Tennessee. I think he's a Vandy commit.
Okay, let's get that then. Vandy
Colt
probably weighs 2.5.
Let's see if we scroll down. I got another guy who you might like. If we go down a little further, if I can find him, another Cooper Harris, Flower Mound, Texas. Twins have taken guys from Texas. Now he's maybe not quite the same frame as Cooper Sides. We're talking like 6'3", 205, but it's just like polish for a prep pitcher. Everything is like already average. Fastballs like 95, 96. Good secondaries. He's probably one of my favorite prep arms in the class at this point in this range.
I feel like you sold me on Cooper Sides a little bit more.
Okay.
And so I want to go that way on May 26th.
Okay, Cooper Sides. That's going to be $2 million. We're going to be roughly back to even with our bonus pool. And we're going to let this sim to 107, and we may or may not make a pick there. But let me ask you, Jeremy, as you see this kind of quadrant or quartet of players, Grady Emerson, shortstop out of Dallas-Fort Worth area, Georgia catcher Daniel Jackson, Nebraska flamethrower Carson Jasa, and prep right-hander Cooper Sides. How are you feeling about this cluster of guys through 4 picks?
Yeah, so we went high school hitter, college arm, high school arm. I feel like that's a pretty good representation of the 4 demographics.
Yep.
At this point here, I think we see the twin. We've seen the Twins where they just go heavy college arms, right? Yep. And they really have leaned into like projectable velocity up
Yep.
until last year, right? Where it was like, well, let's just take the velocity and develop other things. What we saw last year, which was super fun, was a little more of a, can we get some prep hitters, or like the Bruin Agbiani, like let's find some other high ceiling, maybe over slot guys. Like, are we in a spot here where we could pay a guy? I mean, you could still easily pay a guy $1 million.
Yep. There's Caden McCarthy. Look, all the way down at 155. Should have kept scrolling, buddy.
Well, let's round this one out. Let's do that.
You want Caden McCarthy at 107?
I mean, you like that guy.
I do like that guy. So let's talk about Caden McCarthy real quick. Prep pitcher out of Vermont, cold weather arm, up to the high 90s, like elite mover. Like any prep pitcher, work to do on the rest of the arsenal, I think. But if you want just like straight up arm talent. I do think there's some other interesting college arms in this group if you want to go that route. Trey Beard out of Florida State probably has the best changeup in the draft class. Cal Randall, strictly a reliever, but is pretty much unhittable. I saw Jason DeCaro somewhere here, who's pitches for the University of North Carolina. Tommy Lepore struggled with injuries all year, but he's really good from TCU. There's DeCaro. He's another guy you could get for a couple of $100,000 under slot who's been an ACC performer. Their Friday or Saturday night guy. I think either him if you want a college arm or Kata McCarthy if you want to double up on prepsters. I would just
on this one. Let's go big.
You want McCarthy?
Yeah.
I would just say, and maybe you can feel free to disagree with me. After this, you're going to see a diet of college pretty much the rest of the way.
Yes.
And there it is. Locked in.
And he's around 4 picks, so I have to look, but I don't believe he would come with compensation if he didn't sign, right? That's only through round 3.
I believe so.
Yeah, so that might be where we get a little unrealistic here. But you look at that and you're like, man, that was all.
This is
the
fun.
last 2 picks have almost been a million each. You're signing guys now for significantly under what their slot is. But the guys that we talk about are the guys that you just mentioned, like had some injury problems, and so there's a lot of guys just not available.
We're struggling now,
but that's okay because this is the demographic that we're going to see
100%.
chosen from. So, and this is even deeper than what you're digging. So.
This is probably the end of this thought exercise for today.
No, we're not done. Go college pitcher and let's see who's not.
See who we can access. This has to be our last pick because we gotta scoot on to Hudson Barrett. Not super interested. Tyler Fay is an Alabama guy with a solid track record this year.
And Alabama is definitely a thing. So when the Twins come back on the clock here at 168, we're going to be over.
We've got $750,000 for 5 picks. What is the math on that? Less than 200, 175,000 per pick. 150.
Right. What'd you say? 750 and 5.
Yeah.
So 125, 150.
Rough.
But I think that's realistic.
Here's
right?
my.
You take a couple seniors at 10K, right? That's what we've seen.
You know who I'm doing here? Lorenzo Carrier is a senior from Pitt for $80,000 here to get me my money back, who has had an absolutely incredible season, and it's probably because he's like 23, 24 years old playing against 18, 19, 20-year-olds. But I'm doing that to get myself back in the green a little bit. Let me ask you a question here before we kind of round this out and move on to some questions. I guess it's like, do you agree or disagree, and why question. I like this class a lot. We talk often about, and I think we're getting closer and closer together on this, that like leaning into prep players is both fun and important. And you can't just take safe college picks if you're an organization like the Twins, if you actually want to do something, because you have to develop some guys with some star power. Having said that, agree or disagree, Jeremy, this class feels one college bat light so far for me, because Daniel Jackson feels like a pretty volatile pick as a breakout guy this year. Yep. And we usually, I want to say, count on them coming away with at least like 2 or 3 kind of solid college bats in their class, which is not to say that it can't happen now between rounds like 6 and 10, but it feels a little light on college bats compared to what we might expect when we get to July. What do you think of that contention?
I think that's accurate. The part of me that questions, not necessarily that belief, but we've seen kind of a pattern over the course of the years, and then last year it was a deviation from the norm. Mm-hmm. And what we know about the Twins organization right now is there's a lot of hitters in the AA and up, AA and AAA, in my opinion, that could be Major League Baseball players, right? And that's not necessarily first division regulars, but you have the Billy Amics of the world, the Ricardo Olivars of the world, right? Like you have a lot of these guys. If you take college bats, especially in rounds 4 through 10, you're likely to just add more guys kind of to that mix, which could we see the Twins go back and say, hey, Quentin Young, super high ceiling, super low floor. What if we added more of those types later?
Mm-hmm.
And having the roster limits, like you have to have organizational filler.
So
but
true.
If you have a limit of 165 guys, don't you want more lottery tickets? Because before you see teams that had like 2 DSL teams and 2 all these players. And so I just think with the rules, we're going to see a change in strategy. And yeah, maybe this draft feels a little light on college guys. But you also got to remember the Twins traded for a boatload of those types of players last year.
That's true.
And they have them at AA and up, and the Hendry Mendezes of the world, and the Enrique Jimenez, and you know what I mean? Like those types of players were acquired last July 31st. All bets are off this year. And if this team doesn't make a run, and I think if we're being realistic, this team's not going to make a run. You can take some crazier shots in the draft and say, when we trade Ryan Jeffers, we're going to want to get a AA bat,
mm-hmm.
right? The guy that you didn't get in the draft. If you really want to go for it, or the opposite of go for it, you can get a ton for Joe Ryan, right?
100%.
The type of player that you want. So, yep, this draft, as we did it, feels light on college hitters, but I think that's okay. And maybe we'll do this in 6 weeks or 2 months when it actually happens. Be like, wow, Jeremy, they took all college hitters, right? But I do think that this organization's in a position where maybe it's just different, and maybe it's taking shots at guys and really trying to roll the dice on some players that you just typically wouldn't see.
Yeah, I dig it. Okay, we'll pause there and we'll stop sharing this, and you guys can let us know how you felt about that thought exercise, whether you thought it was fun or it was a huge waste of everybody's time. And if you liked it, we'll certainly do it again on a little bit of a rolling basis between now and the draft, just to give a little bit of an idea of how the Twins might try and kind of build their draft portfolio. But let's take a quick break. Quick commercial break here, and then we'll come back and round out the episode with some listener questions. We'll be back in a few. All right, we are back with part 2 of Destination the Show. We're going to dig into some awesome listener questions. We've got some prospect questions, Jeremy, for you, and some draft questions also. So let's go ahead and jump right in. David asks, what minor league pitchers who started on the IL will go to what level and have the biggest impact on their teams? So this gives us a little opportunity to provide some injury updates. And then I think, Jeremy, we'll get your take on who do you think of these guys is going to be the most impactful. So Jason Reitz, who Jeremy's lovingly nicknamed Flat Stanley, has started a rehab assignment. He's with Fort Myers. I think just pitched 1 inning in his first appearance. Also noteworthy that Matt Barr made his professional debut, I think yesterday, pitching for the FCL. Pitched just an inning there as well. And then hot off the presses, this is not official yet, but I would expect to see Charlie Soto begin a rehab assignment in the next week to 10 days. So I think those are really the heavy hitters in terms of guys who started the season on the IL. Which of those, Jeremy, to you, are you most excited to see? Do you think is going to be kind of the most impactful here? What do you think?
Well, I think Soto will be the most impactful if he's healthy. Highest rated prospect. The one that I'm most excited to see, the most intriguing arm to me anyway, when he came out in the draft yet last year was Matt Barr. Because I do think that he's got an extremely high ceiling. I think there's volatility to how this all turns out, but that to me is the name, and it's the FCL now. But he could be someone that we see move up a little bit quicker. Not like Riley Quick trajectory, but just an arm that's a little more electric. There was also, I mean, guys that are pitchers that started the year and then got hurt.
Yep.
So like Bajorquez, he hasn't pitched for a while, right? Elwanger hasn't pitched for a while.
He's not going to pitch for a while either. Yeah.
But there's just a lot of names. I do like, just for me, Matt Barr is the name that's most intriguing. How about for you?
Yeah, I mean, just from I'm a weirdo standpoint, Reitz, because he's a look that's pretty much unlike anything else you'll see in professional baseball. But I would agree, Soto. I mean, you and I have been high on Soto, and that was the frustrating thing about last year is he looked so crisp in the few starts that he was able to make at Cedar Rapids, and I just love the idea of a Soto Dason Hill 1-2 punch in Cedar Rapids. That's so fun. A quick Dason Hill sidebar. He's added a new pitch to the mix, so that's another fun thing to keep track of over the next 6 to 8 weeks as he's kind of rounded a corner. It seems like in his last 4 or 5 starts down in Cedar Rapids.
The other thing too is we talk about Soto. We've talked about Soto a lot. Drafted in 2023. We've talked about him more than he's actually pitched. He's still only 20 and doesn't turn 21 until the end of August.
It seems unbelievable.
Yeah, super young, but that's the archetype that the Twins are interested in, right? Young, young for high school, young, and just a big dude with a cannon. So even if this doesn't turn out to be a great year, there's still time. We can still be patient on Charlie Soto.
100%. All right, next question from Matthew. He says, how do you balance, this is such a polite way to ask this question, how do you balance MLB track record and financial investment with opportunity? Matthew says, Josh Bell seems like a nice guy, but he has a 622 OPS and no defensive value. All of that I think is fair. When do you give guys like Sabato or Kyler Fedko a chance? Understandable question, Jeremy, even if I think our answer is probably going to be that we're preaching a little bit more patience with someone like Josh Bell. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't think there's any world where Josh Bell gets DFA'd, right, for performance or lack of performance. I think he was brought in for his ability on the field as much as his ability in the clubhouse, right? He's a guy that guys are going to look towards. I think the more realistic thing, and even the thing that we've kind of seen in season here, is it's just going to be less at bats. It's going to be more Cody Clemens. Where does Royce Lewis play when and if he comes back up to the big leagues, if he's still hitting like his first base, something that he could do. The reality is, we've talked about Aaron Sabato a lot. It might happen for him, but it's not ever going to happen at even the level that Josh Bell shows us from week to week. Kyler Fedko's a little bit different of a prospect. He can do more. He's played more positions. I view him as someone that will have to get a shot because I don't think he goes through the Rule 5 process again unselected. But I don't necessarily think that's because of Josh Bell being on the roster, right?
For sure.
But this is what GMs do, right? They have to balance all of these things and make the right decision all the time, or get raked over the coals for it. So with veterans, you're going to be more patient, and it's almost like to the point where you have to get rid of a guy. And I just don't see Josh Bell being that guy ever. He can be a DH. He had a really good, I mean, maybe not really good, but a pretty good week last week.
Yep.
And so there's value in having him. on a team that's winning games in Fenway and getting themselves back to the point where if they're not wild card 3 right now, they're very close. So just kind of stay the course, and Josh Bell is going to be one that kind of steadies the hand.
Yeah, I mean, he's also going to have at least marginal trade value if the Twins do fall out of contention. Someone's going to want Josh Bell, especially if he heats up a little bit, even for like a super fringy prospect. Andrew, we're kind of transitioning from prospect questions into draft questions here. So I'll hit you with the prospect one first. He says, what do you guys think is Connor Prelip's ceiling? So this is a good question to answer now because he had his first kind of dud right in his last start. So we can quickly start by recapping his numbers here. And overall, still, I think fair to say, pretty strong. He's appeared in 6 games, 29 innings pitched, a 4.03 ERA, an expected ERA of 3.73. He's striking out 9.3 guys per 9, walking a few too many at 3.7. So that's a 24.4% strikeout rate, 9.8% walk rate. He's certainly, I think, fair to say, held his own. Jeremy, what do you think? I feel like this is going to be a tough question to answer because we're always going to be battling this hypothetical of like, when are they going to need to like shut him down this year to be careful of his innings because he's just had so few since high school, let alone as a pro. But what do you think the ceiling is here? Are there new heights for Connor Prelip behind his very solid start to his major league career?
I think the ceiling is that he could be a guy that starts a playoff game, right? Like a top 3 type.
Yeah.
Is his ceiling as a number 1? I'm skeptical of that. But it certainly could be, right? We've seen him over 6 innings against the Brewers, who happen to be a pretty good baseball team, strike out 8, walk 2, give up 1 earned run, which was a home run. And so he has the ability to be a playoff starter. And I think when you talk about that as a ceiling or, a floor anywhere in between, that's what you want out of a starter. So a top 3 type pitcher, is that a number 1, a number 2, a number 3? I don't know that necessarily matters. He's not going to be the number 1 if Joe Ryan is healthy and on the team. He's not going to be the number 2 if Pablo Lopez is healthy and on the team. But I do think that he could slot in potentially as a number 3 type. The other thing that he will offer is we haven't seen how good he could potentially be out of a bullpen, right? I believe that was when Louis Varland kind of made his presence known as a major leaguer when he transitioned to the bullpen in the playoffs. A couple of years ago, was that against the Blue Jays that they won the?
Yep.
Right, like he wasn't like kind of struggled as a starter, made that transition, and then kind of stuck in that role. And I think Prelip is certainly better than that, but could be a guy in a playoff series where, especially if you've kind of limited his innings late in the year, where you're like, man, we can get him in 2 of these 3 games, either on the road or at home, and get him for 2 or 3 innings at a time and help us win a playoff series. Yeah. But I do think his ceiling certainly is as a playoff starter. And I think that's great. Yeah. A lot of questions about what he's got in the tank for a year like this, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think he can throw 160 innings in 27 or 28.
Yeah. Love it. I think I agree completely with that. Andrew also sneaks a question here and says, what could the Twins get Eric Booth Jr., the prep outfielder out of Mississippi at number 3 for savings to spend in the remainder of the draft? And you can feel free to disagree. I don't know how. I mean, anyone in the top 3 is going to come with some savings against slot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At this point, Eric Booth Jr. is the number 6 prospect by consensus in the draft. So we're not talking about a significantly downboard guy. Like at the beginning of the cycle, he was kind of top 30. So that would have been a different proposition. I just don't know that he is someone the Twins would go for necessarily. I could be super off base with this, but go watch Eric Booth Jr.'s batting practice. And he's flicking balls 20 rows deep in major league stadiums and then watch him swing in a game. And those two swings are really, really different. It's not necessarily a criticism. I just think he's someone who's going to need like swing work as a pro. And I think there are probably just more options ahead of him that the Twins like a little bit more.
Right.
But I think we always say this, right? Like the only thing we should expect in the draft is the unexpected. So
right.
definitely
And I haven't looked, and maybe you know this off the top of your head. Maybe Theo's got it pulled up. Has there been like guys drafted in the top 5 recently that signed and it was like, oh, that was significant savings, like overdrafted, like Bremner, right? But how much did they actually save on Bremner?
Let's take a quick peek now. Now you've piqued my interest. So Bremner, the pick slot value for Bremner was 10.25, and they signed him for 7.7.
And then the next guy, how much?
The next guy signed for 8.8.
And that
then
was
9. And that was Kate Anson, and then Holiday for 9 at number 4.
Right. And so Holiday was going to get more regardless. But you're talking $1 million from Bremner to Anderson. That's not, I mean, that's a lot of money, but it's not like, oh my God, he signed for how much? 7.7 is still slotted, like that slot at what number?
I don't know, like 7.
Right. So that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
We're talking about the top 10 money.
And Bremner was ranked lower than Booth will be on the final consensus board. I want to say he was towards the back of the top 10 or
the Angels. Yeah, we know the Angels are playing a different game.
I think that's unlikely, but let's not rule anything out. Josiah asks, this is a good question, Jeremy. Should Drew Burress get some consideration at number 3? So we'll quickly roll through Drew Burress's numbers because remember the last time we talked about him, we had been unimpressed by his 2026 season, by his own lofty standards, I might add. He has heated up significantly at the end of the season, ended up entering postseason play, hitting 366, 478, 660, 14 home runs, walking 15% of the time, striking out 13%, 144 WRC plus, 10 stolen bases, and very stellar center field defense. My answer here is a little bit the same as with Booth, which is just like, that's probably a line ahead of him, one of which gets to the Twins. Someone find me a 5'9" right-handed hitting major league outfielder who also, okay, fine. In the last 10 years, who also, by the way, put up a 501 OPS on the Cape.
Yeah.
That's my worry.
So to answer the question, yes, the Twins should consider a whole bunch of players at number 3
for sure,
and then eliminate them pretty quickly when it's like, yeah, I mean, the reality is if I'm watching Georgia Tech play, how much do I have to watch before I decide that Drew Burress is not the Georgia Tech player that I want at number 3?
Not long, in my opinion.
But the the thing with Sean Johnson is he'll say we're going to cast a wide net. We're going to consider lots of players, and Drew Burress fits into that just like anybody else. They're just going to like someone way more, and they should. But I think you certainly look and you watch and you go there and you do your due diligence, and then you decide on somebody else. So strong consideration, no. Some consideration, yep.
I'm still having a really hard time looking past one of Emerson, Lombard, Flora, or Lackey at 3 at the moment for the Twins. And
I'm one less because I don't want Flora.
I will be yelling from the rooftops if there's someone else that enters that quartet for me. Okay, Raphael.
Real quick, I'm gonna jump in to go back to the previous one on signing under slot. So the only real example I can find recently is a top 5 pick for signing under $5 million was Colton Cowser back in 2021 with the Orioles, and then the Diamondbacks got Jordan Lawler 6 overall, and he signed for $6.7 million with the Diamondbacks. So I think that's the only real example. I'm not going to go too far back, but I mean, if that kind of fits what you guys were looking for with that previous questions, that's the best I could come up with in the last 5 seasons.
Yeah,
that's great.
The Orioles one was a surprise. The Lawler one, he was ranked high too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
That's a good example, Theo.
the whole idea of sign them for less than save money is not as real as people perceive. Do the simulator, right? And take the guys and see what's there. And I think that would be it's a fun exercise. But yeah, good examples, Theo. Thanks for finding those.
No problem.
And I'm sure we'll do a simulator where we take Lombard, where you get like $1.4 million of savings. It's not as fun as you think it's going to be by the time you get to 43, and you just don't have as good talent on the board as you want, unless you can go crazy and get someone like Gio Rojas at that spot, which you cannot, because not enough teams are going to pass on that caliber of talent. Okay, Rafi says, if you don't have an opinion on this one, Jeremy, I do have a relatively strong one that I can give you to react to. He says, where would Von Lackey rank in the top 100 prospects before debuting? So if the Twins take Lackey at 3, where is he sliding into a top 100 prospects list? I'm going to say top 25.
I even said higher.
Maybe higher. Yeah. I think top 25 is like the quadrant we're looking at. And I actually don't necessarily think the top 100 list is that strong or exciting at the moment.
Right.
But if you look back at the trends from the last few years and where people are slotting in, and like it's hard to see now because so many of them have already graduated and made it to the majors. If you had Lackey, let's put it this way, I think somewhere in the top 25, possibly even between 10 and 20. If you had Lackey have a hot first half of 2027, you could be up towards top like 5 to 8 type territory, I think.
I think that's fair. And really, and I'm just looking at MLB's top 100.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Savage is not going to be on the list for much longer. He's number 5.
Yep.
Colt Emerson's already debuted. He's number 6.
Yeah.
Max Clark is at AAA. Could he debut and be off the list by the end of the year? Possibly. He's number 8. Travis Bazzana, he'll be off the list. He's number 13. Bryce Eldridge, who just debuted, he's number 18. So that's 4 of the top 18 or 5 of the top 18 you're taking off. So you're at about 13 dudes. Chalowski will fit in the top 3.
Yep.
Emerson will be somewhere in that 5 to 10 range.
Yep.
And Lackey will be in that next area. So that I actually put no lower than 15.
There you go. I'm light.
And honestly, like if Walker Jenkins doesn't get healthy and play baseball, Lackey and Jenkins are going to be. I mean, you're going to see one on top of them, the other on some lists, and flip. Like it's going to be debatable which guy is the higher ranked prospect.
Yep. And I think that speaks to Lackey's quality, obviously, and Jenkins' injuries. Last question here from Jeff. This is Jeff who said, do you want the top 10 picks or the top 10 prospects in your org? Jeff is in danger of becoming a regular high-quality question asker. Here's the latest from Jeff. Let's say you have 2 college draft prospects that are exactly the same. Same position, same everything, but one has shown steady improvement over the past 3 seasons, and one has shown massive improvement in the current season. Which prospect would you prefer, Jeremy?
Based on just that information,
yeah, it's deliberately vague, I think.
The one that's shown steady improvement over 3 seasons. Because it's like, I can't think of the prospect. Shoot. The outfielder that had like the one huge year. Austin Beck's the name that comes to my mind. It's not Austin Beck. Had one good year and then like fell off the map. Has actually been pretty good now. Was he a Northeastern guy? Who was the guy from Northeastern?
Mike Sirota?
Yes. He's been better now, right?
He's amazing. He's like a top 50 prospect now.
But he had that one like unbelievable year as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of fell off the face of the earth as a junior and dropped. But I don't want the inconsistent, right? I want someone that I feel like I can be more confident. You can't be confident in a guy that might do this.
Yep.
But that's the thing. Like, if you have the exact same player and one guy has a higher ceiling and one guy has a higher floor, like what's the flavor of the day? And so I would go steady.
So there is actually like a model driven answer to this also, and you are 100% spot on. But there's a reason grounded in the model, right? Because they'll adjust performance weighted by age. So you're going to get more credit for doing things as an 18-year-old hitter in college baseball than you are as a 21-year-old hitter in college baseball. Therefore, if you're steadily improving, I guess if your steady improver has a better performance in their younger college years, that's going to push them up on the model. That's why Drew Burris is going to be still drafted extremely high, even though his performance has actually eroded slightly, because he had an incredible season as like a 19-year-old where he put up like a 175 WRC plus. So that is another consideration for model heavy teams. But I agree, like Steady Eddie is the way to go. Okay, that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you guys so much for sending in questions. We super appreciate it. It's much more fun than watching James Outman strike out for the 4th time tonight. Please keep sending them in. Let us know how you felt about the mock draft situation. If that was an enjoyable discussion, we can certainly post more of those. We should be back on pretty much a regular schedule all the way through the draft, which is only like 6-7 weeks out at this point. So we will catch you next week. Until then, enjoy the baseball. We'll catch you next time.